Okay, so Kelly,
Right.
tell us what's going on.
So the city of Norman is wanting to, let me back up even a little bit further. So the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority they've reached this, what they call the critical point, which is 60% in the design phase, where they feel like they need to start acquiring right of way. And so they have finally approached the city of Norman and said, hey, we're ready to start working with you guys. If you guys want to come in, have a seat at the table, and have some say as to how this design is going to work in your city, then we need you to put forward a resolution saying that you're going to work with us.
Okay, so this
So,
is the Norman City Council and OTA who is building explain what they're building through.
oh, the turnpike, they're trying to put in, a new turnpike through Norman, all along the northern boundary and also the eastern boundary through basically all of Cleveland County. It's a lot. Whitney, can you remember how many miles it is off the top of my head? I'm blanking on the miles, but it's a lot.
It's a lot, and it's going back to the grift of economic development.
Yep. Yes.
See, I
So
love that. The
they're
grift
wanting
of
our city to basically sign this resolution that says, we love you. We want to do whatever you want to do. We support you 100%. And so they're trying to get the city, they're trying to get them over the barrel and say, look, we know that you guys are going to want some things. Like, we know that your environment is important to you. We know that Lake Thunderbird is important to you. We know that your water source is important to you. And so we want to help you protect that from our project by letting you come in and have a seat at the table to try to negotiate some things that we will do for you, in exchange for, who knows what. That's the big key. So basically, some of the research that I've been doing over the past 2 years is trying to see, well, how did they actually work with other municipalities? How did it work out for them? Because the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, right? So that's kind of where I started, and some of the information that I've come up with is not very favorable. I'm sure you guys are familiar with some of what happened with Oklahoma County, but Oklahoma County Board of Commissioners got roped into the same deal. They were brought into the picture at 60% design, and they said, hey, you want a seat at the table, we'll start doing these things for you if you go ahead and agree to be a partner in this project with us. And then, as you'll see through my slideshow here in a minute, they had them over the barrel, and things didn't go up very well for Oklahoma County. So they ended up with a big bill instead of what they were promised. All right, so like I said before, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And as I was telling you before, so Oklahoma County, they started off with just this really, really simple resolution. And it basically just said, Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has offered to purchase the necessary right-of-way to construct frontage roads along the route, and that Oklahoma County may lay out new roads by resolution in these specific locations that they listed here. And then it says, now therefore be it resolved as a reflection of this partnership between Oklahoma County and the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. The Turnpike Authority will purchase necessary right-of-way. Oklahoma Board of County Commissioners commits to pursue construction of the frontage roads in stages along the northeast Oklahoma County loop. And so what ended up happening, let me push pause here for a second. So what ended up happening was when they first approached them, they said, well, they talked about this in meetings with staff, with the Oklahoma County staff, and said, well, you guys are going to have about 15 years to construct these frontage roads. There won't be any rush. But, so that's kind of why they went ahead and put that in there and agreed to take the right of way, thinking they would have 15 years to budget for this. But as you'll see in a few minutes, that kind of is a bait and switch on them. So anyway, so this that we're getting ready to watch, hopefully this works, but I wanted to play a little clip from the Oklahoma County Board of Commissioners meeting that was on March 30th, 2020. And this is fast forward 4 years from when they signed this very simple resolution where they were only just supposed to get some right of way, and then they were going to have 15 years to build these frontage roads. And instead, notice there's nothing about right of way and nothing about frontage roads. But now the conversation has shifted to the damaged roads in Oklahoma County and the damages that were done by the Turnpike Authority. And so it's really good to just take a minute and listen to these guys.
Degradation of the county roads caused by the construction of the Eastern Oklahoma County Turnpike. Stacy.
As you're aware, they sent back a document they'd like for us to approve again, different than the one we already approved. The major difference is they took the dollar amount out and they just listed a set of roads they would actually perform the work themselves, which is different from last time. There's also a set of roads we would perform ourselves. They have a timeline for their work, which is, relatively quick. And then ours, we got 3 years to do our work. There's more miles of road in this one because the first time we passed it, we had certain roads documented. This is about 3 times the mileage, and I suspect there'll be more before it's all said and done. I'm guessing that the part that they're going to build themselves is roughly equivalent to the dollar amount that they had offered you before, maybe just a hair more.
So can I, just a real quick question related to that. You said you think the mileage in here is about how much more?
I think it's about 3 times more than what we had before.
And the 3 times more largely falls to who?
Well,
What entity?
Oh,
I think we had about 4 miles identified in the first document. This one identifies more like 12 miles, 4 for them and 8 for us.
Yeah, right now, I'm not too interested in,
well, you telling me that their offer was to double the responsibility in the contract for the county?
Yeah.
and give us 3 years to double what they're suggesting that we do via this agreement. And what again, remind us, or at least remind me, these guys they might remember, what is their objection to the document that the board has already signed and sent over?
They didn't like the time frame, number one, because it was 3 years for all the work, because we were going to have to do all the work. They were just going to give us some money.
And so I think you just said that this agreement is doubling the work that they want the county to agree to in a 3-year time frame. Is that right? Did I hear you right? Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I think that's probably the end result of this document.
So their main objection to what we've already passed and sent over was they didn't like the 3-year time frame that the county was wanting to do the work that was identified in that agreement. And now they're sending us back something that doubles the amount of miles we were to do in that same 3-year period.
That's correct.
Plus the road that they're building out is a road that we are projected to be working on in the next 5 years.
No, I think the first piece, Michael, that I can build to that is about 2027, based on the CERB funds that we get. I mean, it's under design right now. You're correct about that. But we're 7 years away from building the first piece. At best.
Yeah. So what
Unless sudden changes in CERB.
I mean, they don't like our timeline requirements. Well, can you convey to them that we don't like the way that they've torn up the roads in Oklahoma County?
Well, they're very well aware of that.
I think it's time that other people are made well aware of that, in my opinion. I mean, if they're not gonna move off of this, it may be time for the sledgehammer. Just my opinion. And again, this does not affect District 3, but it does affect Oklahoma County, and we do represent Oklahoma County as a whole. So, I mean, I would follow 1 and 2's lead on this, but
I think
The weakness that we have is the statutes don't make them responsible.
right. But the power that we have is the constituency.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, they don't want the constituency now.
at this point in time.
That's my Commissioner Miles Davidson, by the way. Way to go,
I believe
Miles.
it's necessary to respond. I think a non-response is a response.
Okay.
And as Miles pointed out, we can certainly begin to ramp up pressure.
Did they allude to the road they're working on, if they were gonna move forward with doing that, whether this is in place or not?
I don't think they're gonna do anything on the county roads, without an agreement. They're already doing some that they had to do in conjunction with their turnpike project itself, and those are also outlined in here, that they're making us aware of what they've done for you.
Again, they're making us aware of what they've done for us, that they're legally required to do.
Yes.
Right.
And I think one of the lessons learned from this is the next time that we face this issue here in Oklahoma County, and make no mistake, we will face this issue again in Oklahoma County, is I think we need to put in contract in the beginning. These are the roads that you will remain on. These are the only roads that you can use. And if we're able to do that, we should do something like that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, they didn't ask us this time.
No.
That was kind of a fast train that came.
But I think in the future, I think something like that ought to be done. And I don't even know that we have the authority to do that, Gretchen, and the DA's office may tell me I'm nuts, but this is proven that they kind of got us over a barrel, and it's really not fair to the taxpayers. So,
Agreed.
but
So, as you saw there, nothing panned out like they had anticipated. They still don't have their frontage roads. They still don't have their right-of-way. Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has not transferred any of the right-of-way to Oklahoma County to build the frontage roads. Instead, they have spent all of their budget and then some trying to fix the roads that the Turnpike Authority tore up. So anyway, I just wanted to, part of what I was going to talk about also is the similarities between Oklahoma County and the city of Norman. So we kind of already discussed this a little bit earlier, but basically OTA announces a project and there's no input whatsoever from the city, the county, the citizens, ACOG, etc. The OTA moves forward with their design plans and still.
Can I
no
ask you a
input.
question?
Yeah.
I got to turn your mic off because your mic is feeding back.
Uh-oh.
So do they believe that they don't have to ask any questions, that OTA can just kind of do what they want because they have their own money? Do you think this is the reason why they feel like it's like they're transportation gods or something?
Oh, they definitely think they're transportation gods, and they think that because they are the authority, that they have the authority to do whatever they want, and they make it sound as though they don't need the local government's support. But I think it's interesting that every single time they have one of these projects, they try to get one of these resolutions that show support from the city or the county very early on. Well, not very early on. They wait till 60%, which is what I was going to talk about here. But I think they do that because they actually do need that agreement to have power over them. And so it's kind of that bait and switch. They make it sound like they're signing on to something, so they're going to get something in return, when in fact, all that actually happens is they're handing over the keys to their kingdom. They're literally opening the door and saying, come on in and make yourself at home and do whatever you want here. But that's not how they make it sound when they do it. So once they move forward with their design plans, they're still not giving any input from the counties or the citizens. And then when OTA's design plans reach almost 60%, this is the point at which they begin to engage our local entities. Sign on the dotted line, agreeing to support our project, and we'll do this and this for you, but you have to do it right now. They need to start acquiring right-of-way right now. And we kind of saw this, I didn't show this part in the video, but in one of the previous meetings, when they very first came to Oklahoma County Board of Commissioners and they said, hey, we want you to sign this resolution, they said, he was like, well, okay, I assume we have, a few weeks, we can talk with, some of our leaders and get some input, yada, yada, whatever. And he said, well, I do think they're getting ready to start acquiring right-of-way, so they're probably going to start pushing us in the next couple weeks to make a decision. And so that's the exact same thing that we're seeing here in the city of Norman right now, is that we, they knew about this Turnpike project back with the Driving Forward program. I'm positive we have information that shows that they knew this was coming, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later in my slideshow here, but they knew this was coming, and yet they still did not come to the city leaders and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Where would you guys like to see this route go? Let's go ahead and start making these plans now. They didn't do that then. Even when they announced their long-range plan in December of 2021, they still did not come to the city of Norman and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. They didn't come to the city of Norman until after February 22nd, 2022, when they published those routes online for everyone to see. That's the point at which they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to put a turnpike in your city. And then, so now here we have this, they're not reaching out to the city to start working on, collaborating here until they've reached almost 60%, which just seems, I don't know, it just seems very disrespectful in my opinion. So anyway, here's what I was going to talk about. Oklahoma County thought they had a deadline of 15 years, but they didn't. And so I actually presented this to a few of our council members at a town hall last Sunday. And so I put this "you are here" point to let them know you're in the exact same place that Oklahoma County found themselves in. The OTA, now is your chance. You got the OTA to pay for things you want them to pay for. Anything you ask of them after this arbitrary deadline will have to be paid by the city. That's what they tell them. If you don't jump on board now, if we don't get your input and you don't sign on that dotted line saying that you're going to support our project before we start this, right-of-way acquisition, then you get no say in anything from here on out. Like, the door's closed, you're done. Sounds like they want to be a good neighbor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did it work out for Oklahoma County? Well, it really didn't work out very well. Oklahoma County initially opted for a very simple and straightforward agreement. The resolution specified the following: that the OTA would purchase the right-of-way for their future frontage roads, then quitclaim deed the right-of-way to Oklahoma County. The county would build the frontage roads in a specific locations at some point in the future. And Oklahoma County seemed very pleased with the deal. They were super excited about this. They were like, yes, we are finally going to see some development out here in the eastern sides of our county.
I remember all of that.
Yeah, they were like, it's going to be just like the Kilpatrick Turnpike, which was hilarious because, well, not hilarious, but they gave the exact same comparison when they pitched it to the city council on July the 31st, I think it was. They had a city council study session, and that's when the engineer, the City of Norman's public works director came and did a presentation for our city council saying, look, they're ready for a resolution. They need our support so that we can actually start working with them. Okay, so they literally had a slide of the Kilpatrick Turnpike and said, everybody's seen this up there. Everybody knows what kind of development followed. Everybody wants this for our city. Doesn't this look great? And, well, obviously that didn't work out for Oklahoma County. Do you guys see anything that resembles the Kilpatrick Turnpike over there on the Kickapoo?
No.
No, we don't.
Because we just need a bunch of Dave and Buster's all over Oklahoma.
Fast forward 6 months after they put in their original resolution, and the OTA has completed their cost analysis on those frontage roads, and they have determined that construction materials and labor are going to cost around $4 million per mile. And I want you guys to keep in mind, this was in 2017, so this was before COVID and before the cost of construction materials skyrocketed and probably doubled, maybe even tripled. I don't know. It would probably cost $8 million per mile now. That was just a rough estimate in my head, but so this is out of the county's budget. So they amend their resolution because they decide, well, we don't have $4 million per mile. And so you can see over here on the right-hand side of this slide, in 2016, what they originally agreed to was what was there in yellow. That was the 13 miles. And then they cut it back to 7 miles over here on the right-hand side just 6 months later after they found out. Which, if Oklahoma County had been part of the conversation earlier, they would have known that it was going to cost this much, and they would have told them from the beginning, no, we don't want all of that. But anyhow, so here we are. Then 3 years later, they finally commit, and they put in a formal agreement. And it didn't really talk very much about the frontage roads or the giving of the right-of-way anymore. Now they've moved into the formal agreement, moved away from that simplicity of, well, you're going to get this, and then you're going to be able to do that with what we give you. And now it is, well, this is how much we're going to pay for the damage we've done to your roads that are already in existence, and those kinds of things. So the bait and switch. The focus has shifted now to the repair of the roads, and that's what they're agreeing on. So March 2020, now we are where the video played a few minutes ago, where they're talking about how, you know, they've got all this repair work that needs to be done. And so basically what the nitty gritty of that video was talking about was the OTA had sent back a document they would like for Oklahoma County to approve again. This is the third time they're having to change things. The difference is this time they removed the dollar amount they would contribute to the cost of repairs, and they replaced it with OTA will do the work themselves on specific roads. Oklahoma County will do the work on specific roads. Oklahoma County must do their portion of the work within 3 years, which, remember, before it was 15 years, right? Now we're down to 3 years. And Oklahoma is now responsible for additional work. Before, they were only supposed to do 4 miles of the repairs, and now they have to do 12 miles of the repairs. So, you know, I would say it's probably not working out for Oklahoma County very well. And this is just a newspaper clip from, I think it was Oklahoma City Free Press in December of 2020, and they're interviewing Carrie Bloomert. She, apparently there was a town hall, and she says that they estimate the road damage at over $4 million, and the Turnpike Authority has only provided $1.8 million. And she says, we've worked with Mr. Kelly, and he was very nice about everything, but he wouldn't budge off that total amount. So think about that. We always hear that they're so nice and they're so easy to work with. He might be very nice, but he wasn't helpful, and he didn't budge off of the amount, and they're not doing what they need to do to fix the problems they caused. So I think it's kind of interesting that she says that he was very nice and helpful. I don't know how that's helpful, but anyhow.
Well, it's that, you know, suck up kind of a thing that all political animals seem to do to make sure that they don't offend somebody that they're going to later have to come back and get money from. But I did want to point out that I was mayor in Luther during that time, and I cannot tell you the number of people that were constantly calling us and saying, I can't even get to my home because those great big trucks of dirt and those great big earth movers and all of that were going up and down these little 2-lane country roads out here. And there's not, I mean, it's pretty hard to get around out here as it is. And if you mow up one of those, you know, little county roads because you're, you know, sticking a road grader on it, or a great big dump truck with 47 million tons of dirt, it just wrecks the roads. And it was very frustrating for me because I wasn't able to get anybody out there to help them get the roads fixed up. It just wasn't happening.
Yeah, and then I'm sure if you try to call the Turnpike Authority and tell them, hey, my citizens can't get to their house, they're like, oh, sorry. They probably didn't even pick up the phone. They don't seem to be very good partners. So the takeaways from this are basically get it in writing before you agree to it, although it doesn't really matter because they're just going to change it anyways. The OTA is the one doing the cost analysis, and so they're the ones, so they're doing this after you have already agreed to partner with them. And so one thing that I tried to make clear to our city council members is that the OTA they don't follow the same guidelines as far as bidding out their projects that like a normal municipality or even ODOT would follow. So they don't necessarily have to get the lowest bid, if that makes any sense. So basically what happened here was they said, remember in the previous slide where they talked about how OTA was going to do the repairs of a certain amount of miles, and then now the county got shifted to the county. So my concern is that when they shifted some of that to the county, the repair plans had probably already been established, and they probably already had contractors lined out to do that. And so then the county now is roped into doing those repairs the way the OTA planned for them to be done. And so they're probably paying a higher price than they would have had to pay if they had just kept all of that in-house from the very beginning. And that's the message that I really hope our city council gets, is that if you farm out any of these projects to the OTA, it is not going to be anything like what you want it to be. Even though they're telling you that you're going to get a seat at the table and you're going to get to have input in the plans, you're not. This is never going to pan out. They are going to take your agreement, and then they are going to flip-flop on it, and they're going to change the terms and set the prices and do all these things, and you're really going to have no say. And if you'd have kept it in-house from the beginning, you probably could have got funding from the federal government for other things, or, you know, budgeted for it and just done it over a period of time. And you're probably going to end up spending more than you would have if you'd have kept it in-house. And you get nothing. And then you also have no say in it. So there's really no upside of potential, in my opinion, with working with the OTA. So let's talk about those frontage roads for a minute. The OTA will build frontage roads. This is what they're telling the city of Norman. It says the OTA will build the frontage roads regardless of what the city, or, I'm sorry, let me back up. I'm telling the city council members that the OTA is going to build those frontage roads regardless of what the city requests or agrees to, because the OTA wants the frontage roads for the same reason the city wants them. And let me back up just a second. So with the city of Norman, they want a seat at the table because the OTA has told them that they will plan and build and pay for the frontage roads and then turn them over to the city of Norman, which is they're offering Norman even more than they offered the Cleveland or the Oklahoma County Board of Commissioners. You know, they were going to just give them the right of way over there, but now they've decided, well, hey, we'll tell Norman we'll go ahead and build the frontage roads too, and we'll pay for all of that, and then we'll give it to them. So what I wanted our city council to understand is that they don't need to agree to anything. Like, yes, that's a big carrot they're dangling in front of you, because that sounds like a huge expense that would be taken off your shoulders, but they're going to do it anyways, because the frontage roads lead to development. The development leads to increased traffic, which leads to more customers on their turnpikes, which leads to increased revenue. And that revenue is what those frontage roads are all about, and that's exactly why the Turnpike Authority is going to build them.
It's all about money all the time, always.
Yes, it's all about the money. So this is one of my favorite slides of the whole presentation. Right here is where it's at. So this is from, this diagram right here is actually from the Driving Forward program. So the Kickapoo, think back to Oklahoma County Commissioners. So the Kickapoo is up here to the north, but they included in their socioeconomic study the entirety of Cleveland County. And why would you do that? None of Cleveland County is anywhere, I mean, that's not part of the Kickapoo, that's not part of the Driving Forward program, but they included all of this. And so the OTA's revenue projection, what this tells me is the OTA's revenue projections depend on this. Their feasibility study that they included for the access program, they actually did not redo the socioeconomic analysis. They included the exact same study data from the Driving Forward program, from their traffic and revenue study from that. So that's how I know, remember I said before, I'm positive that they knew access was coming when they did the Driving Forward program, and they didn't talk to the city of Norman or Cleveland County back then. So they very well could have. So anyway, so this just proves my point here. The OTA's revenue projections depend on this. Their feasibility study specifically included the potential for development throughout Cleveland County. And those numbers were included in their study to show their ability to generate sufficient revenue to pay off the bonds. So this is what some of that study shows. They had broken down into, let me go back to this previous slide, to see all these little tiny red boxes. Mm-hmm. Each one of those is broken down into anywhere from 4 to 8 more little boxes, and they call those traffic analysis zones. And what they did was they went through and they said, okay, well, this is what the population looked like in that traffic analysis zone in 2005, then 2015, 2025, and this is what we think is going to be in 2035. And they went through every single one of these areas, and they decided whether or not they looked at the the land use plans and talked with the developers to find out where they thought they were going to develop in the future. And that's how they came up with these numbers right here in this column. They said that this is the potential for growth. They're absolutely depending on that growth to generate the revenue that they told the bond, that's how they were going to pay for the bonds that they're taking out. So they're dependent on those numbers because they need that traffic. So it was just kind of interesting. And another thing I wanted to point out here is that I found interesting was that they don't know for sure that these people are going to sell their land to develop, because some of my relatives actually I was able to pinpoint where one of these traffic analysis zones was that they have decided is going to be, right now it's vacant farmland that could be developed into a major housing development that holds a certain amount of, and it was like, I think it said 1,000 homes or something. That my relatives have no plan to sell that land. So I think that's kind of funny that they included that, knowing they have no proof that that can happen. So anyway, so again, Turnpike Authority depends on these frontage roads to meet their revenue projections. They will build them regardless of whether Norman requests them or not. So think about this. If they're going to build the frontage roads, why are they coming to the city of Norman now and trying to get them to have a seat at the table, you know, dangling those frontage roads in front of them? So if you look back at what happened with Oklahoma County, you know, it started really simple with these, we're going to give you the right of way, you guys can build your frontage roads later, blah, blah, blah. Well, that didn't pan out. They haven't transferred any of the right of way, and Oklahoma County hasn't constructed any frontage roads. So the only thing left of that initial agreement is this part right here, the reflection of this partnership between Oklahoma County and the Turnpike Authority. So that tells me that's what it's all about. It has nothing to do with anything that they put in the resolution. It has nothing to do with what they agree to. It's all about this partnership. That's the only thing they're after right now. They don't care what that resolution says because they know they're going to change it. They want the partnership. And it's interesting. I'm not really sure exactly what they get out of that partnership other than now they kind of have them over the barrel. Once you've agreed to be a partner in the project, it makes it a lot harder for the city or the county or whoever they're partnering with to push back, whether that be denying a permit or who knows what, you know, telling them, no, you are going to pay for the damage you did to our roads. We saw how well that flies.
Lessons learned from this. So next time that we face this issue here in Oklahoma County, and make no mistake, we will face this issue again in Oklahoma County, is I think we need to put in contract in the beginning.
So there you have it for Miles Davison right there. If you're going to do anything, you have to get it in writing from the very beginning, exactly what you want. And it can't be a partnership. That's the key thing here, is it cannot be a partnership. So the other thing that they're dangling in front of the city of Norman is that the city of Norman is concerned about their water supply and environmental mitigation measures. You know, we're concerned about toxic runoff from the roads. And so our council has, I guess our city leaders have been presented with this idea that they can put these filtration ponds next to the turnpike, and we'll put a multimodal path in, and it's going to be great. It will filter all the runoff, and then we'll have all this green space for the community to walk. I mean, I don't know who wants to walk along a turnpike that cars are flying at 95 miles per hour down, which that's what they've said. They're designing this for 95 miles per hour. Which is insane. I don't know how
It's very
that's good for
relaxing
anything.
to watch the cars go by.
Yeah, right. And I don't know how that would be safe either. So you have this slide here, and this was back from the Driving Forward program. He says, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority works diligently with our team of civil engineers and hydrologists to have a zero hydrological impact to the drainage areas that the Oklahoma Turnpike cross. Okay. So the reality. I don't think their claim is holding water. That doesn't look like it's improved.
I
That
get
looks
it,
like
holding
worse.
water.
Yeah, see? You like that? And that's not holding any water either. Look at that. That's somebody's backyard. The community says the turnpike has led to flooding issues. It's almost like their plan didn't work. It's almost like it wasn't true. That doesn't look like it's holding water. Or that. Look at all of this. You can tell how high the water had been. Look at all that debris from runoff. That's a huge tree. That's a lot of water that moved that. I'm sorry, but that's not a sign of controlling the flooding. So this is interesting too. So this was this is actually over on the Southwest John Kilpatrick, and you can see here this is a FEMA floodway here, and so if the OTA had done a full NEPA study like they should have done, the NEPA study would have identified this area right here as a concern, and it would have helped guide the engineering design plans to properly address those flood management. But instead, since they didn't do a full NEPA, they got this. They got all of these. Yeah. That's because they cut corners by not doing the NEPA. And so my point to the city of Norman is we need to make sure that we get a NEPA, because we have the same situation going here in Cleveland County. Look at that. We actually have a larger floodway here than what they did in Oklahoma County. So we're looking at even bigger problems. Therefore, it is even more important that our city push and request, not only request, but demand that they do a full NEPA study to make sure that they are not causing some severe flooding in our area. This
And
right here,
Kelly, maybe you should talk to Jenny about the response you got from Mayor Heikela about why we don't have to do a NEPA study, because just with her experience as being a mayor before, I would be interested to hear what she thinks of his response.
are you talking about what he said at the council meeting the other day? Oh, I don't know how to make that go away. Hold on. There you go. Make it go away. So he said, about the NEPA study? Oh, he said that they're not required to do a NEPA study. The OTA is not, and by state law. And he said, no transportation in Oklahoma is required to do NEPA studies, which is absolutely 100% incorrect. ODOT is required to do NEPA studies. And so anyway, so that, yeah, is that what you were going to say? If you want to add to it, go for it. I might just be forgetting something because I'm thinking about my next slide.
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay, so that's why I feel like the NEPA study is imperative. The city of Norman must demand that OTA perform a full NEPA study to ensure proper flood mitigation. Because that little section right there, where that green star is, I took this photo of that very location, which is just down the street from my house.
Oh, wow.
This was back when we had all that major flooding about a week and a half ago. And when I got there, there was a storm tracker guy that was leaving, and I saw his video posted later. And so he'd been there maybe an hour before I got there. And this sign right here, which I don't know if you guys can see that or not, this says flood depth of 4 foot. And then that sign was covered up in his drone video. He flew a drone over this area and you couldn't even see the sign at all. So an hour or two before I got there, it was over 5 feet right there. And so that's why it's so important that they get it right the first time, because right here next to that, which is not even a quarter of a mile from this location right here with all this flooding, is where they're going to put a 5 stack. That's Dallas Fort Worth type of 5 stack. We don't have anything that big in Oklahoma at all. It will be the largest interchange in the state of Oklahoma. And they're going to put it right there next to this sensitive water source that already has troubles with flooding. And so if you can just imagine all of that additional concrete, like right now, Indian Hills is a 2-lane bridge. That's it. That's all you got concrete wise. But instead we're going to have I-35 plus the turnpike lanes, plus these, 2-lane frontage roads on either side going in either direction. It's going to be massive. So if you can just imagine all that additional runoff going to this exact same location, I just think it is incredibly important that we get the NEPA so that we know how to properly take care of this. And that's just another picture from that same location. I mean, look at that. It's crazy. You can see right there, this bridge right here, that's where the 5 stack's going to go. Right there. That's how close it is. So anyhow, and this is another area that floods in Norman. This is just, so right here is the interchange, and you can see this is Little River and it comes through here. And so this is that spot right here in this photo. And again, that was flooded as well. So it's just really sad. And then it was interesting when the Norman city planners came to the city council and they had their initial study session, and where they were saying, we want you to go and sign a resolution to partner with the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. They said, oh, well, and OTA is going to be really good about managing the floods because, as you've seen down when we widened Highway 9, ODOT actually improved our flooding when they did their widening project. Well, I'm here to tell you that did not happen. It is not better. It is actually worse. This was sent to me by a resident who lives south of Highway 9, just like not even a full mile, maybe half a mile south of Highway 9, right there where that widening project was. This is her backyard the other day when we had all that rain come through, and this is what it's supposed to look like.
Oh, jeez.
And then this is the entrance to their neighborhood. Again, I don't think that's improving anything. I would not say that That is not solid evidence that they are going to make it better than it was before. So, and then the other thing I wanted our city council to understand is that, because what I've noticed is they're kind of on day 2 of this turnpike announcement. They don't really have a lot of information. If they weren't directly impacted, they really just don't know exactly what to expect. And so I was trying to show them how much extra right-of-way is going to be needed to account for these flood mitigation measures. So I went back, this is back on that same spot on the Southwest John Kilpatrick from the Driving Forward program, and they have one of these little detention ponds here. And this is the exact location that that church was saying they are not able to maintain the flooding in it, and it comes and it floods the church's property, and they've had a lot of flooding issues there, to the point that I think they were trying to file a lawsuit against the Turnpike Authority, and they asked the Turnpike Authority, please come fix this. You said this wouldn't happen, and they refused to come fix it. So now they're dealing with all this extra flooding. And so I measured this, and keep in mind here, the Southwest John Kilpatrick does not have frontage roads. So not only are we going to have the turnpike route there, but we're also going to have the frontage roads, and then we're going to have these ponds, and then we're going to have the multimodal path that they want. And so I just wanted them to see a visual of just how much extra right-of-way is going to be needed. Like, we're talking a lot. This section right here is 268 feet from there to there. And so what does that do for Norman? Well, look at this. The red line is where the Turnpike Authority has their right-of-way right now. But if we add in that multimodal path, and this is only assuming we were going to add in 150 extra feet for the multimodal path and the ponds, which we know is not sufficient. It's going to be at least twice that, so at least twice my 150 estimate here. And so here you can see these 3 homes right here in the green, they fall within 150 feet of the Turnpike Authority's current right-of-way line. So they're literally going to lose their house just for flood mitigation and a multimodal path. I don't think that's worth it. I don't, anyway. And then this is Ward 6 is kind of looking at the same thing. We've got at least 3 homes here, depending on how far they have to come out. I mean, it could take these homes right here, which will not make me very happy, but we'll talk about that another day. Okay, so let's talk about the condemnation process, the timeline, because we talked about how these people are going to be forced out of their homes, for maybe a multimodal path, which just sounds insane. But so this is actually an actual case. I'm not going to name the name of it, but this is an actual case that went through the condemnation process. So back in December of 2017, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority passed a resolution of necessity. And one thing I want to point out here is notice that time, December 5th, right before Christmas. They're so kind. They're so compassionate. Merry Christmas. And I think there were well over 150 landowners that were impacted by this resolution of necessity. So,
Yep. Merry Christmas. We're going to take your property.
and you, by the way, and when they do that, you don't know when they're going to file that. It could be the next week. It could be, as in this case, it was 6 months later. So May the 1st, the Turnpike Authority filed the petition with the court to move forward with condemnation proceedings, and then you can see how quickly it went. They did their proof of notice. They appointed the commissioners. The commissioners came out and filed their report. And then this is what's interesting to me. So the commissioners filed their report on July the 20th. July the 27th, they had already turned in their report, or the Turnpike Authority had paid the court that amount that was listed in the report of the commissioners. And then that is the official date of the taking. And this family had 30 days to vacate their house.
Oh my gosh.
So from the resolution to the point at which these people had to be out of their house was like 9 months. And it could have been as few as 4, as little as 4. Because if the Turnpike Authority had turned right around the next day and filed those proceedings, these people would have had 4 months from December to get out of their house. And something else I think is interesting here is that, the report came back from the commissioners, and then they had the 30 days. Well, let's just say that you've already been in the process of looking for a home. You've already gotten pre-approved for a loan, and you already know exactly which house you're going to buy. You're ready to sign the contract that you're going to buy the house. You can't do that in 30 days. If these people went the very next day and signed for, to purchase a house, they would still not have a place to live 30 days later when they had to be out of theirs. So I just wanted our city council members to realize what that process is brutal. It's not kind. And so one of the things I'm encouraging them to do is to push the Turnpike Authority to follow the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Benefits Act of 1970, and that just gives our landowners a lot more benefits, and it gives them more time, and it gives them a lot of help to move. So back to those right-of-way considerations. This is actual right-of-way take on the Kickapoo. Look at that. Look at all the extra they took that they didn't need. So when the Turnpike Authority comes to the city of Norman and says, we want you to sign that you're going to agree to be our partner in this, and part of the reason we want to do that is because we know that you're going to want us to get extra right-of-way so that we can build these frontage roads for you. I'm here to tell the city of Norman, they're going to do it anyways. You don't have to approve any of that stuff, because look at all this extra right-of-way they took. You're not going to need it. And that's just really sad. And that, this goes back to our talk from the last time. Remember when we talked about how it was just really a big land grab so they can flip it to developers?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's proof. What do you think?
Yep.
Yeah. And so this data, I didn't make this up. This data was provided by G. Carl Gibson, who was a board member of the Turnpike Authority during the Driving Forward program. He approved all of this, and he's the one who put this map together. He plotted all of those and provided that data to the Daily Oklahoman, and I pulled it directly off of his map and downloaded it into Google Earth and did screenshots of it. So I didn't make that up. That's not me exaggerating anything. That came straight from the horse's mouth. So if we look at the east-west connector, this right here is that area that I showed you a minute ago with all of those homes that are going to be taken and some of the extras. So the Turnpike Authority claims they're only going to need 600 feet of right-of-way to build their turnpike. Well, this is 600 feet, this orange part. But we've already decided they're going to need probably about twice that amount to do their multimodal path. And so this is the green area is probably actually more like what we're looking at for right-of-way considerations. So
what is a multimodal path? Is that like a bike path? You can, pretty much put anything on there except a motor vehicle?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Pretty much just a walking path, basically. So my conclusion is that any resolution put forth by the city of Norman should be focused on protective measures, not an agreement. It should be insisting on a full NEPA. It should insist the OTA follow the Uniform Relocation Act. They need to keep all projects in-house under the control of our city leaders and elected officials. This would ensure we are not forced into plans we do not agree with. It would allow for greater flexibility to change plans if our needs change, and it allows for public engagement. And it also ensures that projects are completed in a timely manner into the city's specifications. We're not on the Turnpike Authority's time frame here. It would also prevent any unnecessary taking of private land from our citizens. It could reduce the deduction of homes lost, keeps property on the tax rolls longer, and residents may move on their own accord before land is ever needed. And I think that's so very important to point out here, is that remember all of this right-of-way that the Turnpike Authority took from these people. And they supposedly did some of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I interject one thing? And I just thought about this. They're saying that OTA is going to build this multimodal. Well, what if one of the reasons all this is being pushed so fast is because of the Biden infrastructure law? Because there is funding in that law that is for multimodal type projects. So the OTA can say they're going to build it all day long, but who knows? The whole plan could be to get a hold of that federal money. And it just goes back to money.
It definitely goes back to money. And so that was actually what I wanted to point out to our city council members is that, so Whitney, I don't think the Turnpike Authority will use that money because that loops in federal money, and then they do have to do NEPA. And they do have to follow the Uniform Relocation Act. Yeah. However, that's what I want our city council to recognize is that that's why they can keep it in-house, because they can take advantage of that. And it might actually cost them less than what the OTA is supposedly giving them. They could probably keep it in-house. They could do the project on their own timeline. They could do it in a manner that actually is respectful to the citizens that live here and hopefully protect some houses from being taken unnecessarily. Because when they turn that over to the Turnpike Authority gets to determine how much space they think they're going to need for that. But the city, if the city is explaining that and they're taking control of it, they can look at those plans and go, no, we want to scale back on that. We don't really like that plan. That layout is going to take too many houses. Let's scale that back a little bit. They won't be able to have that say. The Turnpike Authority is doing it for them. So that's why I would like to encourage them to keep it in-house, because there's just a lot of good reasons for it. And then let's say I'm not for a multimodal path taking a home 100%. No, I forget the multimodal path. I don't think it's necessary in the first place. But let's say they do move forward and I don't get what I want out of this. But let's say they do and the city keeps it in-house and they are able to use those federal funds. Those people are going to get the benefit of the Uniform Relocation Act, and that will be a huge benefit to them. So I just think it would just be a lot easier process for everyone involved if the city maintains control of it. And another thing to keep in mind is if the OTA takes it, the citizens have no voice whatsoever, and the city of Norman really doesn't either. But if the city keeps it in-house, we can talk to our elected officials and say, no, we don't like that plan, we want you to change it. And if they don't change it, we can vote them out, and we can get somebody else in office that will do it the way we want it done. And we lose all of that. We forfeit all of that input from our local citizens if we turn the project over to the OTA. And I think that's what this is all about. This is all about the OTA coming in and being able to wave a little resolution in front of the citizens in the state of Oklahoma that says, nope, Norman's on our side. We've got their support. They're going to do whatever we want them to do. And so, citizens, be quiet. Your voice has been heard. Your elected officials have given us 100% control for the next 15 years. But that wouldn't be the case if we kept it in-house. For the next 15 years, we're going to have lots of different officials coming in and out that are more likely to hear what we have to say. And we have a greater voice if we keep it in-house. So bear with me, we're almost through here. So anyway, so OTA is consistent in their dealings. They promise they're going to do this, and then they break their promises. And so basically the last word I want to leave with the the city of Norman leaders is that anything you agree to can and will be used against you at a later date and time. This is all about dangling carrots in front of you. You are letting them know what your carrots are, and they will absolutely use those carrots against you the minute you sign on the dotted line. So anyway, that's all.
Well, I keep hoping that you two girls, you two ladies are going to prevent this thing from going through. Is there just no hope at all that this is going to get stopped?
Well, I don't know, Whitney, what do you think?
I think we could have a different governor that's not such a tyrant, because it all kind of goes back up to the governor at a certain extent, and we need to hold our government accountable. And when they do make promises and then break them, there should be consequences. And I think that it's just unfortunate that most people are too busy just trying to make a living and get through the day-to-day life that they don't participate in politics. And we have low voter turnouts, and so we don't have responsible politicians.
Well, I mean, they don't feel like their vote even matters anymore at this point. I mean, they just kind of figure, I'll just stay home. What does it really matter? Now, I do agree. I think probably more of the non-voters are I just don't care. I've got too much to do and who cares to vote, kind of a deal. But, the best thing that you have at this point then, ladies, is to get the city council to see your perspective. That's the best thing you have at this point. So the Turnpike is going to go through no matter what. You just need to have the city council not sign that agreement. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. Because if they sign that agreement, then they're signing away any chance of the city of Norman being able to put protections in place or to stop them. I mean, I think it would make it a lot harder for them to enforce ordinances and to maybe deny permits when they should be denied. I think it would be harder for the city of Norman to do that if they have agreed to partner with the Turnpike Authority. And so I think pretty much any resolution that's put forward is going to be taken as an agreement, and as not necessarily an agreement, but it's taken as a partnership. And so, I would just like to see them not sign anything at all. I don't understand why we need to sign anything. They're not going to follow what we say anyways. So, and I don't understand why we need a resolution for the Turnpike Authority to come and talk with our city leaders. That just seems like the respectful thing to do. I mean, do you know what I mean? I don't know why we would need to sign something that says, yes, we bow down to you.
Yeah, totally get it. All right, well, ladies, anything else before we get off of here for today?
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you guys for being with us. I really do appreciate it.